Hi there, guys, and welcome back to another review on the channel today for round 4 in Bahrain. Before we get started with today's video, we need to talk about what happened after qualifying on the Saturday. We saw a one-place grid drop for both George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, seeing them move down from P2 to P3 in the case of Russell and P5 to P6 in the case of Antonelli. Now, heading on to the start of the race, what we see is Lando Norris getting a spectacular start, moving up from P6 to P3 at turn one. Could have possibly even got P2 on Russell, perhaps, where he made a little bit of a mistake, locking up behind Piastri heading into that first corner. We also saw Hamilton get a good start as well, who looked like he was making it round the outside of Sainz until he was run out of road. And then we had Verstappen overtaking him into the first couple of corners. But the big revelation came really on lap 3, I think it was, where Lando Norris was shown to have been exceeding his grid box on the starting grid, which resulted in him getting a 5-second penalty. And funnily enough, it was Max Verstappen, the one who was first to point this out to the FIA over the team radio. And because of that, Lando Norris got a 5-second penalty for that. So unfortunate, really. Even when Lando gets a good start, we end up talking about something negative towards what's going on with him in the race personally. But other than that, it was a good start for him. And with the 5 seconds, he easily made that up in the race. So, all in all, probably was a good thing for Norris to have happened. Moving on now to some of the star performers from the race. For me personally, before we get into this, I just have to say how the race was ran with the cameras, the race director, it was a shambles. We missed so many overtaking opportunities, and it was ran really poorly. You had so many overtakes from this man here, first one on the list, Antonelli. He was probably up there for me as one of the drivers of the day. Of course, he got completely ruined in the strategy by Mercedes, and it saw him miss out on points altogether. I believe he was on a set of soft tires, and then they were fairly new, I think, and then he got moved into having another set of brand new soft tires for the end of the race, which we're going to go on to talk about why a little bit later in the video. But looking at this, Antonelli, he made some stunning passes. A few that come to mind, he made a brilliant pass down the inside of the Williams of, I think it was Sainz at the time, to get back through. Gasly was another one as well towards the start of the race. And the best one for me probably was against Verstappen, getting DRS out of the first two corners. And then he was able to execute a beautiful switchback move to go straight past Verstappen, who looked like he was really struggling all throughout the race, it has to be said. But yeah, perfect performance from Antonelli. He'll be quite disappointed to not get any points in this race, but we definitely saw more than enough glimpses to say that Antonelli will be present this season towards the sharp end, and I'm really excited to see how he progresses through his career as well. Heading on to, for me, probably the driver who should have been the driver of the day. Um, it has to be Ollie Behrman, in my opinion. So he started plumb last after a mistake in qualifying on the Saturday, came all the way from P20 up to P10 in the end, scoring himself another point for the Haas team with many noticeable overtakes, especially down into turn one as well. A brilliant job. I think he was up to P15 after the first lap alone. So 5 places gained on that opening lap, taking full advantage. And he's another one of the stars of the future for me, who showed exactly why, like Antonelli, they are in Formula One this season. And yeah, for me, Behrman should have been driver of the day, but it was close between maybe 3 or 4 drivers, and we'll go on to talk about that in a little bit. Who was driver of the day and why they were also deserving of the award. So yeah, but this is the thing that absolutely changed the race. So after the first set of stops, we had Ferrari go long. They were P1 and 2, which for me as a Ferrari fan absolutely stopped the race there. That would have been perfect. But we had Ferraris out in front going longer on the medium compound tyres. We had the rest of the front of the field all on softs, so they boxed much earlier. And at this point, Ferrari were losing up to a second a lap to the leaders. But then they came in for a fresh set of mediums to do medium strategy at the time, and they were absolutely flying. Leclerc and Hamilton going absolutely crazy. And I think the only time so far this season we've seen a strategic masterclass from Ferrari, it has to be said, but that was quickly halted when we had this safety car appear for what was quite a bizarre collision, actually. I think it was Carlos Sainz with Hajar, who he had a massive chunk of bodywork come off the side pod of his car that was left all over the track, and he needed to uh, have that, yeah, basically with the safety car, that was a perfect opportunity for all of the front runners to come in and box for a fresh set of tyres, which at this point in the race probably ruined Ferrari's strategy quite a lot. But had the safety car even been maybe 5 laps later, I think they would have pitted for the softs, but they're a little bit apprehensive of that, so they decided to play it safe, go with the hard compound tyres to the end of the race, which in hindsight was the bad decision in my opinion. Looking at Russell in the Mercedes, he was able to make his soft tyres last for the remaining 23 laps of the race. And obviously, I'm sure they would have loved to go medium again, Ferrari, but having done, well, yeah, having done medium at the start, they had to choose soft or they had to choose the hard tyres, and they went with the wrong one in my opinion. But a much stronger showing here from both Ferraris with their new upgrade to the floor. So it will give them encouragement, I'm sure, for the races to come in the season and their future upgrades that they have to bring to the car. Next here, as you'll see, uh, this one here is Martin Brundle, what he talks about with the race. So we had Oscar Piastri win the Grand Prix, and for him, it was a very dominant display, it had to be said. Norris looked like he struggled somewhat here in the race, and the McLaren doesn't look like the easiest car to drive when in the turbulent air of the cars ahead. So that is one thing that I'm really noticing about the McLaren. If they're not in front or thereabouts, they do struggle a lot in dirty air. Another one that springs to mind is Norris in the sprint race in China. He got stuck behind Lance Stroll for a very long time and struggled to make that overtake until the end of the race. Similar circumstances here, but for Oscar Piastri, right from lights out on lap one, he absolutely dominated this race from start to finish. Even after the safety car, he was able to pull out a 15-second margin to the next car, yeah, to the next car behind him. So yeah, just a brilliant display from him. Also with George Russell, once again in the Mercedes, being very consistent here at the start of the season. Starting P3 with that demotion, managed to get himself up to P2 for turn one, and stayed there pretty much ever since, having a faultless race. Once again, showing that he can make tyres last after the safety car, the only one of the front runners to be on the soft compound tyres. So that was very impressive as well. And picking up another podium for Mercedes at the start of the season. So another very impressive performance for George Russell. Now we head on to yeah, this one here. So Lando Norris in the closing laps was closing up on a few drivers after the safety car restart. So we had uh, Norris currently in P4, I believe it was, and he got a great restart on the back of Leclerc going down into turn one. But Leclerc was just able to stop the momentum of Norris's run going into that corner, and it was Hamilton who was able to slide around the outside to claim P4. And at the very next corner, Norris went straight away for a rash overtake around the outside, which ultimately left him outside of track limits, which dropped him a heap of time thinking about it, having to let Hamilton back through before he was able to have another go at Hamilton, which he did get past, and Leclerc as well, he was able to get past, but just at the end there wasn't able to overtake Russell for second. It was just a little bit too far ahead of him. But P3, a decent result for Norris. The best for him in the race would have probably been P2, so I don't think he'll be unhappy with that. And yeah, good race. Well, a good recovery race at least for Lando Norris from P6 up to P3. And here we are continuing with the theme of Lando Norris. The driver himself saying that he is nowhere near the capability that he has, and he's been struggling a lot so far this season with that McLaren, despite it being the fastest car, which is something that Piastri openly admits now. We have Lando Norris here, who likes to have the underdog story, saying that it's very difficult to drive this car. But just with him personally, he has said that he cannot believe that he is still the championship leader at this point, only by 1 point, but still with a narrow lead in the championship. And hopefully, we see more of Norris as the season goes on. Having a bit of a slump in form at the moment, but we wish to see the fight between these two guys and potentially Verstappen and Russell as well. But with Verstappen, it's a bit more difficult, as we'll see here in a second. But yeah, definitely a two-way fight, potentially three with Russell if we're lucky. So now heading on to the man who was the driver of the day for the Bahrain Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton, and starting P9, it was a bit of a slow start to the race for him. As we said previously, getting run out of road by Sainz, who then allowed Verstappen to come past Hamilton as well. It was a very slow start for him. However, he was able to overtake Sainz, but it did look very personal between them at some points anyway, with Sainz making it very difficult for Hamilton to overtake. But he got the job done in the end, and wasn't just able to get past Sainz as well. He was able to get past where is it? Here we go. Past Verstappen as well. He was able to get past quite easily, and it was very evident, even at this point in the race, that Verstappen was struggling a lot with his car. Hamilton almost being let past there. But yeah, at this point, after the first stop, both Ferraris were absolutely flying. Hamilton didn't just go past Verstappen at this point. He had overtaken, I think it was Sonoda. He went past Doohan, then Verstappen here. He also got past Ocon, Antonelli, a whole heap of drivers to get up to P5, where he ultimately finished in the race. Didn't quite have the pace past that to challenge the lead in four or potentially fight for a podium. But yeah, nevertheless, a good showing from Hamilton in the race, who himself is very positive after the weekend, saying that he believes he's figured out how to drive this Ferrari car now for future weekends, as it has required him to adapt quite a lot his driving style to this new machine. Very different, obviously, to the ones he had beforehand with the Mercedes. But yeah, hopefully we see a better Hamilton, especially on the Saturday for the races to come. He's always showing himself, even now, to be an amazing racer on the Sunday. If he can just start that little bit closer to Leclerc, a little bit further up on the grid on the Saturday, like he did in the sprint race in China, for example, then I think we'll have a consistent podium opportunity for Lewis in the races itself. And yep, here's this one as well. Then we also have Lewis Hamilton here, just saying he has won driver of the day for the Bahrain Grand Prix, which I do agree with. Could have been Behrman, as I said earlier, but definitely not bad. And Lewis Hamilton is still the best driver on the grid, and that is said by many plaudits who uh, gave him a lot of recognition for his excellent drive at the Bahrain Grand Prix. That is very subjective. Let me know what you guys think in the comments as to who you think is the greatest driver on the grid at the moment. But yeah, a good showing from Lewis. I like his new hairstyle as well that he showed this weekend, letting the braids down to have the long curly hair. Again, guys, let me know if you like that in the comments. On this one now, we move to a slightly more disappointing side for a driver who has had so much success in recent seasons, with Max Verstappen. Everything that possibly could have gone wrong in this race went wrong for Max, including overheating issues, a lack of balance with the car. He could not defend anyone who tried to overtake, and he spent a very long time in this race behind the likes of Ocon and Gasly, who on an ordinary weekend he would be absolutely leaving in the dust. Um, so very difficult for Verstappen, but it wasn't just his race pace that suffered today. He also had uh, two really bad pit stops. The first one of which being caused by the light not going to green. There was a fault with that, so it was stuck on red for an extremely long time before Verstappen ended up going off of his pit box. Same with Yuki Tsunoda as well. losing valuable seconds because of this issue. And I find it really telling with the Red Bull crew, because they did not inform Yuki Tsunoda of this when he came in for his pit stops, for example. Um, but yeah, it gets even worse for Verstappen on the second one, an even slower pit stop. He had an issue with his front right tyre, which in the end saw him with a 6.2 seconds pit stop on that occasion. So that dropped him down to P20 at one point in the race. He was running plumb last, and it was looking like he wasn't even going to score points in the end. But Verstappen maximising the best of a bad race, coming into P6. That's why he's won championships. Like Hamilton as well, both are really consistent and are able to get points even when they're not performing at their 100%. So yeah, a good recovery drive from Verstappen, it has to be said, in this race. But yeah, looking at this has been breaking in the last day or so after the abysmal Grand Prix that they had. So Max Verstappen potentially could be leaving Red Bull at the end of this season. Helmut Marko is concerned about the future of the F1 star, saying that by, I think it's the summer break, if he's not around third in the championship, he might be looking to go elsewhere, which for me, it could have been Mercedes if Russell didn't take to life as team leader so well. I think his place has now been sewn up with a new contract on the table for Russell coming soon. I think actually the most obvious option for Verstappen to go to is probably Aston Martin at this point, with an aging Alonso and with Lance Stroll, who he did okay at the start of the season, but I really don't see as a potential driver to lead them towards a title with the facilities that they have, the funds that they have, and they now have Adrian Newey as well. Verstappen going to Aston Martin would make the most sense if he was to leave Red Bull. But we'll see how Red Bull and Verstappen progress throughout the course of this season, and then if that was to happen at the end of the season. We thought this year in 2025 was a massive, silly season for the driver transfers. Next year could be even better if Verstappen ends up moving away from Red Bull. So yeah, and here we are. We have where is it? Sorry. So here we are. Post race, we had Hulkenberg getting disqualified for similar reasons to what Hamilton did in China, which was excessive wear on the skid plank underneath the car. And he failed this test by roughly the same as what Hamilton did. So in the end, Hulkenberg getting disqualified. Very difficult weekend for him as well, with his younger, more inexperienced teammate Bortoleto getting the better of him. And we also had George Russell, who was one of a few drivers to have a DRS issue throughout that race, not get a penalty because he had his flap of the DRS open down one of the back straights, I believe it was, but he was able to, at the next corner, lose some of that time that he gained down the straight. So in the end, the stewards decided not to give him a penalty for that, which I do agree with. The same happened with Charles Leclerc, and I'm not sure if any other drivers had this issue, but it seemed like a recurrent issue for a few on the grid, and luckily none of them were penalised, which is what I like to see. There was a bit of a malfunction there. But yeah, someone who did end up getting a penalty post race as well was Carlos Sainz for supposedly not serving a 10-second penalty, even though he did, and the FIA were caught sleeping here, having given him a three-place grid penalty for the next race, which has now been rescinded, rightfully so, because he did serve it, and the FIA were having an absolute mad one there. So that's definitely good for the sport as well. Heading on to the driver standings and constructors, to how this weekend's Bahrain Grand Prix has affected standings. So yeah, as we said, we have Lando Norris, who still is in charge of the Drivers' Championship, but increasingly so, looking, for me at least at the moment, that Oscar Piastri is going to be the title favourite for this year. 3 points behind his teammate, with Verstappen gaining some very important points in sixth, able to get himself up to 69 points in third. We've got Mr. Consistent George Russell in P4 on 63, looking like a four-horse race at the moment, with a massive jump back to Leclerc in 5th. Then we've got Antonelli in 6th, who suffered without getting any points in the race. Lewis Hamilton in 7th, Albon 8th, Ocon 9th, and Lance Stroll somehow in 10th in the championship. We have Gasly, Hulkenberg, Behrman, Tsunoda. Talking of Yuki Tsunoda as well, he had a good performance today as well, with his first points for the Red Bull team. A second seat, of course, that looks very, very difficult to drive. And he was able to get some good points in his second race for the team. So good signs to come with Yuki. And he pulled a few dive bomb overtakes of his own in the race. So looking like he is a driver who is building confidence in that seat, which is very good to see. And yeah, to finish off the championship standings, we have Hajar, Sainz, and then 4 drivers left to score: Alonso, Lawson, Doohan, and Bortoleto. Um, so yeah, all in all, it was a really good weekend, I would say, continuing on the trend of the championship. Other than Japan, that was a little bit of a snooze fest. The rest of the races so far have been somewhat interesting. But yeah, this one for me had lots of overtakes, was constantly interesting, that you always had to keep your eyes on the screen. And yeah, I really hope this continues. But we do have a continuation of winners of the Grand Prix who start from pole. That is 4 from 4 to start off the season. So hopefully we'll see that broken at some point as well. But yeah, definitely loads of overtakes, lots of action, and some great stories there in the field as well. But yeah, guys, if you did enjoy this video, please let me know down below in the comments and what you would like to see going forward in the future. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, guys. Take care. Peace.